Hello everyone, how's it going? My name is Dewi and this is my brother.
Oh, I!
And today we're here to talk about Daredevil Born Again, episode 9, Straight to Hell. So this is your chance to leave now before we get into any spoilers.
3, 2, 1, government.
Right,
Okay.
The last episode of this series, which has seemed quite quick because I've loved this series. Obviously there's been a bit of different directions this has gone.
Yeah, with
because
the
of
fact that they had
teams.
two writers working on it.
But all in all, I've enjoyed it. This last episode really sets up a lot now, future going for Daredevil. So starting off then with the intro, it actually takes us about into the past.
With the scene with Vanessa and Bullseye?
Yes, Vanessa and Bullseye, where basically how he really got out, which would look like sort of like a psychiatric ward. Yeah. You can see him taking the pills and basically her hiring him to kill off Foggy and his client, which is what the beginning episode.
But obviously she lets him out as well, so buys him out of prison.
Yes.
So that he can then go in there, kill Foggy and his client.
Yes.
And then doesn't that lead into after the intro?
Yes. So after the intro, you see where Bullseye is still basically in the last episode where he shot Matt Murdock on the actual floor scene.
Oh yeah, because isn't Matt in hospital now?
Yes. Because, I think you're meant to believe this is like several hours now have gone by because he's already in hospital. You know, he's just woken up from, I guess you could say, a coma. And Heather and Macduff are there and you're trying to, comfort him and all that. But he just wants to know more about the Foggy case that happened previously a year ago.
Yeah, because obviously now he knows that Vanessa was the one that killed Foggy.
Yeah.
So he wants to know exactly what that case involved and why Vanessa tried to silence Foggy about it.
Yeah, Fisk already knows about, because she does actually say in this episode when she's about to confess to him, about what she did, about getting Bullseye out and going after Foggy, and that him basically saying, I already know, that, he's okay with it.
Yeah.
And
something that I noticed when I watched that scene in clips and stuff was that Fisk's white suit with the blood stain in the centre resembles sort of Muse's blood stain in the middle of him.
Yeah.
They kind of show that they're both just as monstrous as each other.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of cool little detail.
Yeah.
If that's intentional or not, I have no idea, but I'd like to think that it is.
Yeah, I know what you mean. You had that. So Fisk already knows about what Vanessa's done, and she does get someone to go after Matt, which is his right-hand man, Buck.
Oh, yeah.
Because he sees this now as an opportunity to silence him.
Yeah, because...
Never mind, he just saved the guy's life, but no, he wants to kill him. No, and I understand that, Fisk is at the end of the day a bad guy, he's evil.
And he wants to get rid of all the vigilantes.
Yeah, he just, I can finally be dealt with this pest who's caused me so much aggravation and pain in the past. I can finally put the nail in the coffin now. So he sends him off.
To go kill him.
Matt, but Matt obviously, with his echolocation can hear all this and then gets out before he does.
Then something that's happens, Fisk puts the whole city into lockdown.
Yes, because he uses the whole attack against him from Bullseye as a sort of catalyst to warrant putting the power down to try and catch him. To have no more vigilantes, get the task force out there. And that whole speech he gave to the governor and all that, the commissioner, and the rest of his staff was very impactful.
Yeah, and obviously chaos would naturally ensue, as you've told me, because you've got people looting shops and stuff. Which you told me that reminded me of X-Men 97, where after Magneto switches off all the power, people start just robbing
they're panicking, because they're all scared, aren't they? And man's scared as they can make them do desperate things. But you see the events of the problems this causes, where there's this one scene where a kid basically robs a store, not murder anyone, just robbing a store. Obviously it's a crime, but it's not it's not murder or anything like that. But the police officer just immediately shoots him after he drops the stuff. And to warrant that, he just puts his beanie above his face and it just says he's a vigilante.
Yeah, so that's kind of
him.
Then as you said, just then trying to justify their murders by saying they're vigilantes and stuff. But in the end, doesn't Matt get back to his apartment?
Yes.
And then that's when he meets Punisher.
Yeah. I knew as soon as you sat down, it was so quiet, I was like, Punisher's there, isn't he? And he's like, yes. Saw him, and I did like that bit where he says, you know what? You're some kind of guy. I can't say because but you're some kind of guy, Matt. Because the whole power in the city goes out, and there ain't no coffee in this place. Like, there's nothing to make a decent coffee in this place, and it was pretty funny. But the comedy humor between them, I think, is quite good. I think they have that like in season 2 when they first got together and stuff. They had a phone call of Karen actually to basically help Matt out.
Oh, yeah, to save Matt because she knew that Bullseye was out and about.
Yeah.
And that he would probably come after Matt.
Yeah.
So.
Because I knew as soon as he said that they had a phone call, I thought that's Karen, because those two, I wouldn't say had a thing, but you know, Punisher's always had this sort of like, I guess you could say, protective thing for Karen, and he always wanted to look after her stuff. Very protective
of her.
Yeah, so he thought by doing her a favour and stuff like that by helping Daredevil out. And you get this awesome fight scene in the apartment. You find out who killed Hector,
which is like the head cop of the vigilante task force.
I don't know if it's really the head, but yeah, that squad that was going in there, but maybe one of the heads of the task force. I don't know.
It's definitely one of the ones we've seen the most.
Yeah, definitely. So you find out who actually got the killing blow on White Eye again. You can see Max trying to hold it all back after all the memories he's gone through in the last year of the people he's lost. Punisher egging him on to do it because I know it's Punisher's thing. And he's very violent when he does these kills and just tells him, why don't you just lay him out there? And Daredevil said, well, you're always a liability, you know, and you want to kill people, not giving them the second chance, which is an argument they had, I guess, back in season 2 when they were on a rooftop back then. They both escaped narrowly because a grenade is thrown by, don't know who.
By someone.
Yeah, by some random cop, one of the
vigilante task force throws a grenade in there and it blows up the apartment.
Yeah. They get out, and then they meet back up at Punisher's hideout because with Karen Page, because she's at the downstairs already, he pulls up in the car. So it's like, oh, we haven't seen you since the beginning of the season. Yeah. We see you at the end.
And she ends up, they have like a talk in there, don't they?
Yes.
Daredevil and Karen.
Yeah, they're basically fixing each other up because obviously they still got wounds from the fight. Yeah. They have a little talk about the previous things.
Foggy, right? They talk about Foggy and the case and trying to figure out what all that was
Matt
about.
tells her about it.
Oh yeah, he tells her about that, and then don't they go off to try and find the files that Foggy made that contained the whole thing about the case and stuff. Yeah,
and he did say actually that he wasn't like he thinks he should have like picked up on this at the time, but obviously he was still in mourning and stuff. And Karen does say that obviously you wouldn't be expected to follow up on this.
Yeah.
It wouldn't. I mean, I don't know how much of a connection point you would made between his assassination and the case he was on at that time. I don't know, but I didn't know if someone was going to follow it up at some point.
Well, like, I feel like if this show was just made by the one writer that made the first episode and the last 2, that over the course of the season, Matt would have been investigating in the case, but because it was made by two different writers, they just sort of shoved that plot line in there in the second to last episode to try and like quickly rush that whole story. But had they had time, they probably would have fleshed it out a lot more. Does she have a talk with Punisher?
Yeah, she has a little talk with Punisher, basically saying that you come in and you can't be dealing with this whole Inspector Gadget stuff. And she did say, I know you're a good person, deep down it all. And, you can't tell, because I think, as violent Punisher is, he is a good person at the end of the day. He's always trying to help people out, you know. So, they go their separate ways. So Matt and Karen are following up on the Foggy side of things, and Punisher is dealing with the task force at Red Hook, which has basically been the centre of
all the stuff that was going on.
So he takes on the task force, and you actually hear one of the cops saying like, "Oh my God, it's the Punisher," or something like that. I thought it was pretty funny. Oh my God, they're like fanboying over him now, like sort of thing. Yeah. Cool fight scene there, but he's overwhelmed by the numbers. I thought to myself, you've just gone straight up in there through their front door, pretty much.
Yeah, not thinking very much. Punisher's been in the.
Nah, but he's always been.
Shoot first, ask questions
later.
Yeah,
he's been always right up front. It's not. He does do some stealth stuff, but in this case, it's seems to be straight up walking through the front door, taking them mostly. He did take a lot of them down. To be fair, it's just there was so many of them. Eventually, he went down. then you got this talk scene between him and the guy that actually had the case against White Tiger.
Oh yeah, like sort of the well, definitely the one that we've seen the most of when it comes to the corrupted police.
Yeah, and he's like, these guys idolize you and we want you to join us, sort of thing. And I'm like, he's basically gonna tell you to basically get lost, and he did. Because he's like, do you know you don't know my pain and the real reason why he does this sort of thing? And none of them. I mean, I don't know if those people have had those kind of situations, but his Punisher's situation is very unique. He lost his family.
Yeah.
He's in a lot of pain.
I mean, a lot of people lose their families in the MCU, but I mean,
this one was special. Yeah. So they're all basically taking their turn. Basically, I think one punch at a time or something like that.
Because they do have them chained up, don't they?
Yeah, they are. Well, yeah, obviously. Otherwise, he'd be getting out there to escape.
He's not just willingly gonna let them punch him.
Yeah. Then you cut back over to Matt and Karen's scene, which shows them investigating the files that Foggy was working on, and you get to hear a bit of interesting information about that. I did like the bit where they talk about the avocados at law, which I think is a cool.
Oh yeah, is that what they used to call their law firm?
Yeah, well, Foggy got drunk one night, and in Spanish, it was very close to sounding like avocado, so he got drunk and just said avocados at law in that firm, and he had that box there to show, and I thought that was pretty funny. Karen, I like the fact that Karen asked him that question to sort of explain the story to anyone that's kind of new. So you find out that Red Hook, the reason why Vanessa was so protective about it, it's a free port, so it can't actually be touched
by any legal things in New York, because it's not classed as something in America.
So essentially what could happen here then is Fisk is trying to build an empire on something that can't be touched legally, so laundering, anything like we talked about before and stuff like that.
Yeah, so any illegal activities is basically legal because it's not in New York or just the US government sort of jurisdiction to do anything about it.
Yeah.
So that basically allows them to do whatever they want without any consequences.
Which is mad as hell to think about, but that's where they're going to start their foundation, work their way off. Because they go there then to confront them, and in the meantime Fisk is with the commissioner because he found out later on by his assistant who gave the record, which I saw a complete, because I think she did it out of fear that she gave Fisk the record, and her and the commissioners basically talk about him trying to take Fisk down. I thought was that if you're going to betray the commissioner, it means you're going to do it out of fear, because you could see she was crying about it, and she got told to send people who weren't on board with.
Well, yeah, because she's not someone like Daniel, who's just believes in Fisk, who's basically just a mini Fisk, and she's not someone like Fisk that is doing this because they actually want to do it and stuff. She would do
Daniel
it out of fear.
Went with the council and tried to talk to them about, supporting Fisk and his steps moving forward into his safer, street sort of initiative.
Oh yeah, with turning off actually no, that had nothing to do with turning off the power.
Well,
however,
the task force more out and about on the ground.
Yeah, but they have all that covered up, and doesn't Daredevil actually go to? Does he go to Red Hook?
Yeah, well, he goes around it, but he doesn't confront them. The thing is, the commissioner does die. I'm not going to get into that, but Fisk just kills him because he just can't be dealing with his backstabbing anymore. Well, I say back to me. I think they always knew that they were against each other. He says outright to me, "I don't like you," but he's always had to follow orders.
Yeah.
But obviously, because he wasn't going to follow orders anymore, Fisk just put an end to him. So yeah, Karen Page and Daredevil are there. They're basically by some rocks overlooking Red Hook and the port and stuff. And she's basically trying to talk to him. You could go in there, you could fight,
but you'll die because there's so many of them.
There's so many of them, and Fisk has worked his way now up into the government, and he's corrupted so much again now that you won't actually be able to beat him. Even if you did kill him, Vanessa could still take over with the corruption that he's caused. So
he's got the whole city in the palm of his hand, basically.
I do like that shot of the city that they had in the background, we need an army, he's got his own army, we need ours. I'm not gonna lie, in this moment I did think that they were going to be setting up the Defenders a little bit with Jessica Jones, Luke Cage and Iron Fist and all that. because Punisher's back, and you go.
Yeah.
I did think to myself when he needs an army. I thought to myself, is this you gonna go try and find the Defenders or something like that now to try and take down?
Well, I mean, I would have thought obviously the obvious answer would have just been get Spider-Man, but they're not legally allowed to have him in this show.
Well, yeah,
otherwise, if they were legally allowed, Spider-Man probably would have been a co-star in this show with Daredevil and with Fisk.
Yeah, because it makes you think now. Actually, with this going forward. In Spider-Man, if you were in Spider-Man's shoes right now, what would you be thinking?
Where's Spider-Man? Even just I know they've name dropped them, but even just mention or a news article or something. But what's Spider-Man's opinion
What about
on this?
Moon Knight as well and stuff like that?
Well, Moon Knight isn't in New York. He's in London.
I know, but he could be eventually though, couldn't he?
Eventually, yeah.
I don't know how quick this is gonna sort of resolve itself. You see, because I think the conversation we had earlier on about this happening before Thunderbolts, Doomsday, Spider-Man 4 and all that, and obviously we know there's a season 2 plan. In fact, actually at the end of this they did Daredevil return again in season 2, so obviously this is going to be a whole season going forward, trying to resolve this. So you don't know what's going to happen in these events. It's going to be the characters introduced, being brought over here, this, that, left, right, and center.
It's so makes me wonder if they are deciding to build an army, which obviously you do see at the end with them getting all the good sort of uncorrupted people in New York that aren't working for Fisk. But it's does that mean that the whole Mayor Fisk storyline is going to be exclusive to Daredevil Born Again? Because with this whole thing, it doesn't feel like they would be able to have the story of building an army go into Spider-Man 4 and have it make sense for people, younger viewers who maybe have not seen Daredevil Born Again.
I don't know. I think there's got to be references at least, because you can't have as if this is still going on by Spider-Man 4, you can't not have the task force, if they're still around, them still not kicking around, not having some kind of influence in that, trying to take Spider-Man down while he's actually trying to protect people.
Yeah, especially now since it does seem like Spider-Man 4 will be a street level film with it taking place alongside Doomsday rather than after it.
Have Daredevil go back to Josie's and you seeing starting to
all the
uncorrupted, the uncorrupted cops and stuff, Cherry and the cop who was in that bank robbery scene, the detective, Josie herself, Karen, and a few of good cops, and they go then as he makes the speech about New York and the people there, we need to fight for it. It's all I guess you could say the good people you've met along the way. Hector,
BB Urich.
Yeah, Hector's niece, BB Urich. I guess you could say Fisk's sort of assistant, because she just did it out of fear, because she could still spill some information later on down the line. Punisher. Swordsman was also in his little prison as well, along with loads of other people.
Because Fisk has a medieval sort of dungeon thing, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and then isn't Punisher there as well?
Yes, I did just say that.
Oh yeah, you did just say that, sorry.
Yeah, so a lot of basically people who've gone against Fisk have been taken out. Although, in the post-credit scene, I might as well just say this now that we're talking about that scene, is that Punisher looks like he's going to escape. So I think that's going to be quite interesting. I don't know when season 2 does come out, I don't know how much time will have passed. Literally, will it be hours or days or weeks? Or we see more of his like Red Hook sort of expand more of the buildings and stuff like that sort of built.
Yeah. I would imagine that it would have to take place pretty soon after this sort of season ends. So I would imagine that in universe it would probably only be maybe a few days or weeks after this season ends the second one would pick up. But we don't really know as of yet. Yeah, no, I don't either. But I did enjoy this series. I really, really enjoyed it. I can't wait for season 2, especially now that I know it's the main writer. There's one writer, it's the one from the Punisher series. So it's definitely going to be a lot more of an organised sort of story that's not as messy as this season was. No, but I still think the season was good, and as we said before, the first episode and the last 2 were really good. I still like the episodes in between, mainly the ones I think Hector winning the trial and Muse specifically
you know, those two like areas, I think were to me like, you know, really good moments as well. But no, I think this has got great setup now for season 2, and maybe going into like other MCU films like Spider-Man, because that's going to be the closest thing it's going to
that will be the closest thing aside from Daredevil Born Again season 2. It's just whether they will / be allowed to do it because of Sony, which they should be able to, considering the fact that it seems like they've decided it'll be street level, and whether it'll make sense for younger viewers who will obviously have no idea what happened in Daredevil Born Again, because you've got to take into account that...
I think then season 2 has to, I wouldn't say tone it down a bit. I don't think it'll tone it down. I don't want it to either. But I think it would have to have a setup point at the end of season 2 where it makes sense for Daredevil. He does a cameo appearance in Spider-Man 4.
Yeah, like it's got to have, if they have this whole building of the army thing, the second season would have to solve that plot line so that they don't continue the plot line that's building an army in the movie. Yeah, because then Fisk can
think of another reason, and that reason could be another toned down one, which gets explained in Spider-Man 4 and not Daredevil. As long as you separate those two things, then that's
I mean,
fine.
Fisk has like made vigilantes illegal. I don't think we've mentioned that. He's made vigilantes illegal now, hasn't he?
Yeah, but we always knew that he wanted to make vigilantes legal.
Yeah, but now he's made it like
an official thing.
Official thing, sort of declared martial law, hasn't he, or whatever. So, yeah.
Do you think of any questions to ask?
I don't think so, no.
In that case, that's going to be it from me, Dewi, my brother Owain.
Yeah.
Any questions you'd like to add, then please free to leave it down in the comments, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Bye-bye.
Ta-da!